Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got involved in it. It's a pretty powerful one. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So I started out doing just cold forge work and plasma cut art with my daughters. Did like yard flowers, stuff like that. I used to do some shape art, and that started in like late 2011. And in 2012, I think I was 34, 35. And I just had all these things that I always wanted to do. You know, you see a friend you haven't seen for a while, and you're like, oh, we should come visit each other. And then another year goes by and you don't. And I was just fed up of all those don'ts. And one of the things I wanted to do was do some blacksmithing. I was exposed to it when I was a kid. My dad had a friend who's a smith, and I used to go watch them in Fallbrook. And so I always was kind of curious about it. And so
obviously, Morgan Jade, your name's not Morgan, nor
No.
is it Jade. Talk to us a little bit about how that came about. And
so in September of 2012, I guess early September, my daughter Morgan died. And they weren't able to really find out why she died. They ran a bunch of tests and whatnot, but that left a huge hole in our hearts, in us. She was 6 years old, and she was just a very unique kid. I mean, very in your face, very exuberant and enthusiastic with everything she did, very expressionate. I always say about my two daughters that everybody loves my oldest daughter, Maddie, because she's just beautiful and nurturing and caring and very hospitable. And everybody loved Morgan because she told them to. Her name was Morgan Jade. So when they asked Maddie, what should we name the company? And she said we should name it after Morgan. And so her first name was Morgan Jade. So she would tell people, my name is Morgan-Jade. So that's where the name came from.
You've got some guys here working in the shop. You know, talk to us about how you feel about mentorship for young guys.
I think it's important. You know, I grew up in Montana, and I had older gentlemen, older men that were hard. They were hard men, lived hard lives, and they showed me how to be hard, but there was also a kindness. You know, the thing that pops in my mind were their hands. Their hands were so calloused and just tough. I mean, like, there's nothing they couldn't do with those hands, but they had heart, you know, and without that heart, I don't think the vision of their hands would mean as much to me, you know.
I love the story about the hands. That's awesome. What advice would you have for a young guy who maybe wants to get into blacksmithing?
Well, it's work, you know, and you have to not be afraid to work, and you have to understand that if you go and work hard, you don't always get paid, you know. So there's a certain investment that goes into it, and you have to do it for yourself. You know, if you're getting into this trade to become a millionaire, get set for disappointment. You know, you got to have a worker's mentality. You got to be able to push through, and that's probably the most important thing, is where I get that drive. You know, it's something that comes from your gut, and if you can't gut it out, you're going to have a difficult time in any of the crafts, because you're going to have times where you struggle, and sometimes you got to gut it out. Sometimes you got to put yourself in a situation you don't love to learn something you do love, and that's really going to be the hardest thing, is committing to that and pushing yourself to succeed, because it's not easy.